I'm going to talk to you today about the future of immersive storytelling, and we're partnered with the BFI on a project called XR Stories, which is in Yorkshire, and we fund R&D in the screen sector with all of these different businesses. And what we're interested in is they have all different languages, different ways of telling stories, but a lot of them are dipping their toe into the future of XR or immersive tech. And that ranges from this is kind of very much where we are now, not necessarily where we're going to be in 2030, to enhancing the real world, objects on top of our world and our phones, to something that can actually read the real world and with some intelligence, and then VR, which makes our brain actually think we were somewhere. So what is the future of this? And what I would say is there's a lot of dystopic visions of what technology is going to do. But actually, the future of storytelling is about the fact that storytelling is our operating system. It's the very thing that makes us tick. And I'm just going to talk about 4 things that are going to be enhanced most likely in the future from the trends we see and the things happening. So the first one is about connection. And this is a business that we work with called Megaverse. And he actually comes from a theatre background and design background. And he's looking about how you can scan actors from one part of the world and put them into a performance somewhere else, or how you can walk through a portal and see this other world. And so this idea of connection and people is very much at the heart of people's appetite right now and how you can connect more. The next one, which has obviously been talked a lot about, is interactivity. So interactivity is something the games world has been doing since the 80s. It's not new there. They're real experts on narrative and dynamic storytelling. It's only really started to come into the TV world. And just on the right here is a project by a company called Pilot Theatre, who have merged an escape room, a mystery story, and a piece of VR to create something that has a sort of really interesting approach for the viewer. And I think that people are starting to get an appetite for interactivity that we're only going to see increase as the storytelling methods become more widestream. Co-creation is really interesting. So moving from passive storytelling through to interactivity, to us actually being the authors of stories and being in them and experiencing them at the same time. And this is a lady called Rosie, who's incredibly talented, and she does painting in VR. She creates world in real life and real time, and she does performances. But it also asks the question, all these tools already exist, but they're not really used in our storytelling. So what if you could actually build a world and be in it at the same time? And last but not least is empathy. And I talked a little bit about VR, but VR has incredible abilities. It's got a very divided audience, but to make us really understand what it's like to be somebody else, to feel what they're feeling, so much so that our brain really believes that we are. And whether that's knowing what it's like to see through someone else's eyes, this is something called Notes on Blindness, which you may have heard of. Or another project we funded is called Mind Hopping, and it allows you to look at someone and actually hear their audio narrative. So whether it's through connection, greater interactivity, whether it's through us actually being creators of stories as well as just in them and experiencing them, or through greater empathy, I think you're only going to see these trends increase as the technology changes and unfolds.